Side-scrolling beat-em-ups are stubbornly predictable things. You walk to the right, someone objects to your presence, you persuade them otherwise using your fists, repeat until credits roll, or your patience gives out. It's a formula so rigid it borders on ritual. And yet, in that rigidity, something curious happens. Developers get restless. They start asking dangerous questions. What if the enemies weren't just thugs? What if the world itself was slightly odd? This is where things get interesting. Because, while most beat-em-ups are content to shuffle along in denim and attitude, a select few decide to dress in something far more peculiar. Today we're looking at 7 of the strangest beat-em-ups ever made. Number 7. Sonic Blastman. Let's begin with a game that has something of an identity problem. Sonic Blastman started life as an arcade machine where players physically punched a pad for high scores. The Super Nintendo version, however, quietly shifts gears into something more traditional, at least on the surface. Because, while this is now a side-scrolling brawler, that obsession with raw impact never really left. Every punch feels heavier than it should. Enemies don't just collapse, they're sent flying with theatrical force. It creates an odd tension. Mechanically, it's familiar. Tonally, it's anything but. A standard beat-em-up wearing the ghost of a carnival attraction. And that faint sense of dissonance gives it just enough strangeness to earn its place here. Number 6. Growl. Now we arrive at a game that replaces urban grit with something far less common. Growl casts you as a wildlife protector, taking on poachers, which sounds noble enough, but the moment-to-moment action is anything but restrained. You're not just throwing punches, you're grabbing anything that isn't nailed down. Rifles, whips, flaming debris, even mounted weapons that briefly turn the screen into a battlefield. Meanwhile, rescued animals casually wander through the chaos like they've seen it all before. It's the contrast that makes it strange, a game about conservation that solves its problems with overwhelming force. Earnest in intent, excessive in execution, and all the more memorable for it. Number 5. Puli Ruler. With Puli Ruler, any remaining sense of normality quietly leaves the building. This is not a game that can be neatly explained. It is, instead, something you experience and then spend the next several minutes questioning. Visually, it's a parade of the absurd. Characters stretch, twist, and transform in ways that feel less like animation and more like hallucination. Enemies don't behave so much as they exist briefly before dissolving into something else entirely. The combat is almost incidental. You swing your weapon, things happen, and the game moves on without waiting for you to catch up. It's chaotic, unapologetic, and utterly indifferent to your understanding, which in its own way makes it unforgettable. Number 4. Night Slashers. If Puli Ruler is strange in a whimsical sense, Night Slashers is strange in a far more grotesque direction. This is a beat-em-up drenched in horror, not the restrained, atmospheric kind, but the loud, theatrical variety, the kind that revels in its own excess. You're fighting monsters, mutants, and things that defy easy classification. The screen fills with exaggerated animations and effects that feel deliberately over the top. And yet, beneath all that spectacle, the core remains familiar. Walk right, fight, survive. It's just that now, everything around you has been dipped in something unsettling. A reminder that even the most straightforward mechanics can take on a very different character when placed in the right setting. Number 3. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. Some titles raise an eyebrow before you've even pressed start. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs is one of them. It's a combination that sounds like a dare. Post-apocalyptic landscapes, muscle cars, and prehistoric creatures sharing the same space, without explanation or apology. And yet somehow it works. Capcom's trademark polish is on full display here. The combat is tight, the pacing confident, but it's the setting that lingers. You'll move from battling human enemies to confronting dinosaurs with a level of casual acceptance that suggests this is all perfectly reasonable. The game never stops to justify itself, it simply presents its world and expects you to keep up. And you do, because when something is this committed to its own absurdity, resistance feels pointless. Number 2. 3 Dirty Dwarves. If chaos had a personality, it might look something like 3 Dirty Dwarves. This is a game that feels deliberately unruly. The visuals are exaggerated, the animations almost confrontational in their crudeness. It's as though the developers made a conscious decision to reject anything resembling polish. And yet, there's intent behind it. The game leans into its rough edges, turning them into a defining feature rather than a flaw. Everything feels slightly off, slightly unpredictable. The dwarves themselves are hardly heroic figures. They're scrappy, unrefined, and perfectly suited to the world they inhabit. It's not trying to be elegant, it's trying to be memorable, and it succeeds. Number 1. Captain Commando. We finish with a game that asks a simple question. What if we took every sci-fi trope we could think of and placed them side by side without hesitation? Captain Commando answers that question with complete confidence. Your roster includes a caped hero, a ninja, a mummy, and most notably, a baby piloting a mech suit. It's a lineup that sounds like the result of a particularly chaotic brainstorming session. Yet, the game treats it all with absolute sincerity. There's no wink to the audience, no suggestion that any of this is unusual. It simply is, which in a way makes it even stranger. Because when a game refuses to acknowledge its own absurdity, it forces you to accept it on its terms. Beat-em-ups don't change much. You still walk to the right, you still hit whatever stands in your way. The structure holds firm, no matter how many years pass. So the only real question is this: what do you wrap around that structure to stop it collapsing under its own repetition? For most games, the answer is more of the same. Slight variations, different faces, familiar rhythm. But these 7 take a different approach. They distort the setting, they exaggerate the characters, they abandon restraint entirely, and hope something memorable emerges from the wreckage. And more often than not, it does. Because when the genre gives you so little room to move, the smartest thing you can do is make everything else unpredictable. After all, if the journey is always to the right, the only way to surprise anyone is to make sure they've no idea what's coming next.